Hymns to the one universal God. Hymn to Aten, the Creator One. Splendor and power of Aten too. Thy dawning is beautiful in the horizon of the sky. O living Aten, beginning of life. When thou risest in the eastern horizon thou fillest every land with thy beauty. Thou art beautiful, great, glittering, high above every land. Thy rays, they encompass the lands, even all that thou hast made. Thou art tree, and thou earnest them all away captive, three thou bindest them by thy love. Though thou art far away, thy rays are upon earth. Though thou art on high, thy footprints are the day. Night. When thou sittest in the western horizon of the sky, the earth is in darkness like the dead. They sleep in their chambers. Their heads are wrapped up. Their nostrils are stopped. And none seeth the other. While all their things are stolen which are under their heads. And they know it not. Every lion cometh forth from his den. All serpents, they sting. Darkness, the world is in silence. He that made them resteth in his horizon. Day and man. Bright is the earth when thou risest in the horizon. When thou shinest as Aten by day thou drivest away the darkness. When thou sendest forth thy rays. The two lands Egypt are in daily festivity, awakened standing upon their feet when thou hast raised them up. Their limbs bathed, they take their clothing. Their arms uplifted in adoration to thy dawning. Then in all the world they do their work. Day and the animals and plants. All cattle rest upon their pasturage. The trees and the plants flourish. The birds flutter in their marshes. Their wings uplifted in adoration to thee. All the sheep dance upon their feet. All winged things fly. They live when thou hast shone upon them. Day and the waters. The barks sail upstream and downstream alike. Every highway is open because thou dawnest. The fish in the river leap up before thee. Thy rays are in the midst of the great green sea. Creation of man. Creator of the germ in woman. Maker of seed in man. Giving life to the son in the body of his mother. Soothing him that he may not weep. Nurse even in the womb. Giver of breath to animate every one that he maketh. When he cometh forth from the body, on the day of his birth. Thou openest his mouth in speech. Thou suppliest his necessities. Creation of animals. When the fledgling in the egg chirps in the shell. Thou givest him breath therein to preserve him alive. When thou hast brought him together, to the point of bursting it in the egg, he cometh forth from the egg to chirp with all his might. He goeth about upon his 2 feet when he hath gone forth therefrom. The whole creation. How manifold are thy works! They are hidden from before us. O sole God, whose powers no other possesseth. For thou didst create the earth according to thy heart 5 while thou wast alone. Men, all cattle large and small. All that are upon the earth. That go about upon their feet. All that are on high. That fly with their wings. The foreign countries, Syria and Cush. The land of Egypt. Thou sittest every man into his place. Thou suppliest his necessities. Every one has his possessions. And his days are reckoned. The tongues are divers in speech. Their forms likewise and their skins are distinguished. For thou makest different the strangers. Watering the earth in Egypt and abroad. Thou makest the Nile in the netherworld. Thou brainest it as thou desirest. To preserve alive the people. 6 For thou hast made them for thyself. The Lord of them all, resting among them. Thou Lord of every land, who risest for them. Thou Son of Day, great in majesty. All the distant countries. Thou makest also their life. Thou hast set a Nile in the sky. When it falleth for them. It maketh waves upon the mountains. Like the great green sea. Watering their fields in their town, How excellent are thy designs, O Lord of eternity! There is an isle in the sky for the strangers, and for the cattle of every country that go upon their feet. But the Nile, it cometh from the nether world for Egypt. The seasons. Thy rays nourish every garden. When thou risest they live. They grow by thee. Thou makest the seasons in order to create all thy work. Winter to bring them coolness, and heat that they may taste thee. Thou didst make the distant sky to rise therein, in order to behold all that thou hast made. Thou alone, shining in thy form as living Etern, dawning, glittering, going afar and returning. Thou makest millions of forms through thyself alone. The word is one used only of the people of Egypt. Cities, towns, and tribes, highways and rivers. All eyes see thee before them. For thou art hidden of the day over the earth. Revelation to the King. Thou art in my heart. There is no other that knoweth thee save thy Son Ichneton. 8 Thou hast made him wise in thy designs and in thy might, the world is in thy hand. Even as thou hast made them. When thou hast risen they live. When thou sittest they die. For thou art length of life of thyself. Men live through thee, while their eyes are upon thy beauty until thou sittest. All labor is put away when thou sittest in the west. Thou didst establish the world, and raise them up for thy Son, who came forth from thy limbs, the King of Upper and Lower Egypt, living in truth, Lord of the two lands. Nefer Kepruri, one Re-Ichneton, son of Re, living in truth, Lord of diadems. Ichneton, whose life is long. And for the chief royal wife, his beloved, mistress of the two lands, Nefer-Nefereton, Nofretete, living and flourishing forever and ever. 8 This is the name assumed by the king. As the worshipper of Etern he is Ichneton, the king's own hymn. Thy rising is beautiful, O living Etern, Lord of eternity. Thou art shining, beautiful, strong. Thy love is great and mighty. Thy rays are cast into every face. Thy glowing hue brings life to hearts. When thou hast filled the two lands with thy love, O God who himself fashioned himself, maker of every land, creator of that which is upon it, men, all cattle large and small, all trees that grow in the soil, they live when thou dawnest for them. Thou art the mother and the father of all that thou hast made. As for their eyes, when thou dawnest, they see by means of thee. Thy rays illuminate the whole earth, and every heart rejoices because of seeing thee. When thou dawnest as their Lord, when thou sittest in the western horizon of the sky, they sleep after the manner of the dead. Their heads are wrapped up, their nostrils are stopped, until thy rising comes in the morning. In the eastern horizon of the sky, their arms are uplifted in adoration of thee. Thou makest hearts to live by thy beauty, and men live when thou sendest forth thy rays. Every land is in festivity. Singing, music, and shoutings of joy are in the hall of the Benben house. Thy temple in Ekheteton, the seat of truth, wherewith thou art satisfied. Food and provision are offered therein. Thy pure Son performs thy pleasing ceremonies, O living Etern, at his festal processions. All that thou hast made dances before thee. Thy august Son rejoices, his heart is joyous. O living Etern, born in the sky every day, he begets his august Son Ichneton, like himself without ceasing. Son of Re, wearing his beauty, Nefer Kepruri, Ichneton. Even me, thy Son, in whom thou art satisfied. Who bears thy name? Thy strength and thy might abide in my heart. Thou art Etern, living forever, thou hast made the distant sky to rise therein, in order to behold all that thou hast made. while thou wast alone. Millions of life are in thee to make them live. It is the breath of life in the nostrils to behold thy rays. 9 All flowers live, and what grows in the soil is made to grow because thou dawnest. They are drunken before thee. All cattle skip upon their feet. The birds in the marsh fly with joy. Their wings that were folded are spread, uplifted in adoration to the living Etern. The Maker, variant breath, it enters the nostrils when thou shyest thy self to them.